What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 19 of Out of the Shadows. This one is called Duality, Assessing Situations. Now, every situation in life can be viewed from multiple perspectives, but typically they fall into two categories, either negative or positive. Are you interpreting the situation in an advantageous way or seeing it as a detriment? Now, our perception is what determines whether we see something as being positive or negative. So really, situations don't have any meaning besides what we attach to them. Most things aren't inherently bad or good. So the big question then becomes, how can we shift from having a negative outlook to having a more positive outlook? This obviously raises the question of positive thinking. You hear constantly in life, think positively, see things as an opportunity. What if you could never fail? And really, you can't ever fail, because if your interpretation is positive, that's really all that matters. This is all great advice. I'm not saying not to take that on, but the problem becomes, how do we get there? How do we go from thinking the world is out to get us to seeing everything as a means to grow? It's like anything else. The first step is realizing it's a possibility. If we were talking about addiction, we would say the first step is admitting you have a problem. Now, this isn't so much a problem as I said, seeing the option. If things only mean what we believe them to mean, then obviously we're making a decision here. And how can we realize that it's in our power to see something in a more positive light? A key element here in adapting positive thinking is you have to believe your assessment. If you look at a situation and just try to think, well, what are the positive aspects here? What if I had to view this positively, how would I do that? It becomes a homework assignment, it's mechanical, there's no feeling attached, so your emotion isn't going to change. You don't believe what you're doing. You're doing it and there's some logic there, but your emotional intelligence, there's no change in that, so it becomes useless. Now, it takes time to be able to change your perception. I've done a video about positive thinking and also about changing your beliefs, which really is kind of at the core, in my opinion, of getting to be able to assess things positively, is to change your core beliefs. So I'd recommend go back, watch those videos. I'm not going to get into all that right now because this video would be way too long. All I will say is, like I said, it takes time and it's a process. I don't think anyone who tells you should be able to just start thinking positively immediately, or it's like flipping a switch, they're lying or completely inaccurate in my opinion. So a few situations that we can see from two different perspectives, or as I said, various perspectives is probably a better way to put it. I'm going to start pretty random here. I've mentioned in a couple other videos that I take cold showers. Now, the reason I do this, there's a guy out there named Wim Hof. He's known as the Iceman. He is famous. He's broken world records for being submerged in freezing water or even straight up ice sometimes, and his core body temperature doesn't drop. Technically, I think it drops by like 0.3 degrees, but that's negligible. That could happen to anyone in a room temperature setting. It doesn't mean anything one way or another. So he also has a method. It's a breathing method, and a lot of people do this. I started doing it. I saw a lot of great benefits. And I came to find out that there were others out there who were also employing the cold exposure. And the way that they would do this would be through cold showers. Now, I don't take a cold shower the whole time. It's a hot shower and then a shorter amount of time of cold exposure is how I do it. And that's how most people do it from what I understand, or I think anyway. Point being, the concept behind this is you're exposing your body to stress and you're forcing yourself to deal with that. There's also the aspect of developing more power with your mind, kind of a mind-body connection in a sense, because your body, when you feel that cold, it's almost like going into shock in a sense, not as serious obviously, but you tense up, you shiver, and if you're able to override that and not allow yourself to do those things, this is where the psychological benefits come from, and it's almost a meditative experience maybe, some people's views. There is evidence that this is physically beneficial in terms of what it does to your blood vessels and that sort of thing. However, I was specifically after the psychological benefits. For me, one of the big reasons I did this was, again, to sort of build my willpower and increase that mind-body connection in being that I'd have to override my natural feeling to kind of freak out, as anyone does when you're exposed to very harsh, cold conditions. So with this concept, obviously, as I said, differing viewpoints. You could view this in a positive way and think like, oh, wow, that's great. You know, that's very much going to build determination, in terms of the fact that you're going to continue to do this. It takes courage in the fact that you're going to do something that you kind of know it's like, this is going to suck, and you do it anyway. And it gives you something, a goal to consistently move forward towards. In other words, you aim for longer periods to be exposed to that cold. A more negative way, or perhaps simply a different way of looking at it, would just be to be like, dude, you're crazy. Why would you do that? You're essentially putting your body into shock. And this whole mind-body thing sounds like a bunch of hippie BS. In both situations, how you assess them is going to determine what happens, I guess you could say. If you think it's a positive thing, if you think it's going to be very beneficial and lead to some kind of a significant personal growth, you're likely to do it. On the other hand, if you think it's ridiculous and insane, you're obviously not going to do it. Your emotion is being elicited based on that assessment that you've just made. Another example, and this is kind of a hot button issue, is depression. There are various viewpoints on depression. One that's very popular is it's seen as it falls on the depressed person. It's their decision, really, because in many people's viewpoints, you know, we all feel depressed. And that's correct. Everyone feels depressed at some point in their life. We all have financial losses. We all lose people we love, relationships, and that sort of thing. Everyone gets depressed to a degree, to some level, for some amount of time. And again, people who advocate this side of it will say things like, well, you know, it's your negative thinking that's doing it, and you can't let yourself become stagnant. You need to continue to socialize and work and get out there and exercise and all that stuff. So, as I said, in this viewpoint, it falls on the depressed person. Another viewpoint is more that it's out of the person's control, and often in this context, depression is viewed as a disease. The other thinking behind this is, who would choose to be depressed? I don't think anyone in their right mind would, obviously. To address the negative thinking aspect of depression, the other thing is often negative thinking can become an automatic response. It's something people learn in childhood from their parents, or it can be the result of physical or psychological trauma. There's also clinical depression, which is more typically associated with a chemical imbalance, and in that situation there needs to be outside intervention in terms of medication, therapy, outside support, typically from your family, you know, usually all of the above in this situation. So those are two very popular opposing views. And in my opinion, as with most things in life, the truth kind of lies somewhere between there, but we're not really debating that here. The last example I'm going to give is a friend of mine actually had a job interview recently. Now, he is a police sergeant, and the position of captain became available. He went and he interviewed for it. Now, the issue here is the next rank above sergeant would be lieutenant. There were other lieutenants who were applying for this job. So he knew, just as other people in the department knew who weren't lieutenants, that interviewing was somewhat of a formality. It was likely, more than likely, going to go to one of the lieutenants. Now, if you viewed this in a negative way, it would be, well, why bother? You're not going to get the job. It's going to go to one of the other guys. You're completely wasting your time. There's no reason to do it. If you look at it more positively, though, you're putting your name out there. You're showing initiative. You're showing that you want to move up within the department. It's almost like a practice run, because when you are able to get to that position, you've already gone through the process. You've already had it. So either way, it's a step in the right direction. So in closing here, guys, kind of a summary. Situations can be viewed from varying different perspectives. I stumble over my words a million times. I swear to God, I'm going to learn how to edit very soon. So situations only have the meaning that we attach to them. And things aren't usually inherently bad or good, so it all comes down to how we think. And because of this, we need to train ourselves to be able to assess things in a more positive light so that we can have more opportunities, so that we can grow more as people. You know, in some circles, they'd say change kind of the vibes you're putting out, or the energy might be a better way to put it. So as I said, the first step is noticing. Notice that you have the decision as to how you perceive a situation. And the key thing there, I think, is to just realize this. And this, I think, really helps with getting to that positive side without thinking, well, I'm just lying to myself. Since most situations are neither inherently bad or good, there's no objective truth per se, then you can start to think, well, all right, if that's the case, then isn't it possible that my negative assessment of the situation is inaccurate and maybe I'm wrong? And in the same regard, then if it's possible that there could be a more positive explanation here, and really it's going to come down to what I choose, obviously you want to choose what's going to help you. So that kind of puts you on the path, so to speak. All right, guys, as always, please like, share, subscribe. Leave me some comments about what you liked, what you didn't like, what you're interested in me maybe doing episodes on in the future. Shoot me a message on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. It's at Out of the Shadows Corvo, all one word, just like my channel here. And until later, be well, my friends.